Hi everybody, welcome to 5 Minutes with the Guru. I'm Peter Nonamaker from Hillross Macarthur, and today I'm joined by my colleague Paul Dawson. G'day Paul.
Morning Pete, morning everyone.
Today I want to talk about an important topic with the last couple of years being a bit chaotic with COVID, financial systems being up and down, boom and bust, and we're booming again at the current market. But companies around Australia have had good times and bad times. It depends on their market. And as employees of these companies, sometimes we're at the whim of the success or the failure of these companies. And we've had a lot more inquiries about redundancy packages. Some people have been retrenched from their jobs through no fault of their own, and some people have got the prospect of possibly being retrenched in the future. So it's important to understand what your options are at this point in time. And I've had questions, Paul, that some of these redundancy packages are tax-free and some people have to pay tax. What are the issues around the redundancy payments?
Well, you've asked a good question, because often it can get a little bit complicated, and it feels a lot more complicated if you haven't done it before. It's the first time typically that you've seen it and had to deal with it. So,
well, hopefully you don't get retrenched too many times.
Exactly right. But if you do, it's typically normally what's called a genuine redundancy, which means that there's a tax-free component and anything over that is taxable or assessable. So the way they work out that tax-free component is normally a lump sum or a set amount, which is about $11,000, and then roughly $5,500 for every year of service. So if you've done about 10 years with your employer, well, that's the 10,000 plus say 55,000. So you've got about 65,000 that's completely tax-free to you. Anything above that might incur some tax. If you've been there for a shorter period of time, obviously there'll be a lower tax-free amount.
Yeah, so I assume if I was getting retrenched, my employer would give me those details prior to me being retrenched.
Absolutely, and it's good. It's always a good thing to check the way they've calculated that and make sure they've done it correctly. 99% of the time it will be correct, but you don't want to be the 1% that is incorrect. You normally only get one go at it, so it's a good thing to make sure that it's done right.
Can Hillross Macarthur check those?
Absolutely, we can, Peter.
Good answer. And Paul, so when I get my redundancy notification, some of them I get a bit of lead time, and some I'm basically out the door on the same day. Yep. But once I've got that notification, do I need to go and see a financial planner about that? Because what are the difficulties and the issues at that time?
Look, it can be quite a anxiety-provoking sort of event in your life, and like you said, normally it doesn't happen to you very often, or if at all. And so the first couple of things you're probably going to think is, well, what now? What next? Income's not coming in anymore because I don't have a job, but bills definitely are still coming in. So how do I keep paying that? So the first step we'll probably look at is, okay, do we have money there to keep living and keep paying those bills? If we don't, and maybe there's some gaps, is there some strategies that we can look at to fill those? Whether that's, redraw some savings that we've got, redraw the mortgage. Can we get access to super if we really need it and things are a little bit tougher than normal? If that's the case and we do have surplus money, or we are good to survive for the next little while, and on occasions you might get quite a large payout from your employer, particularly if you've been there for a long time, it can be a good chance or a good opportunity to step back and say, okay, well, I've got this money and I've sort of had this game plan. Does it change the game plan? Are there different things that I can do? For example, can I reduce debt? Can I add money to super? Should I invest it somewhere else? What's the game plan going forward, and what's the best thing that I can do with this money?
Yeah, that's good. So I've just been retrenched, but fortunately I've got another job lined up. So when I go to the new job, they'll typically offer me a new superannuation fund, but I've got the old superannuation fund. Should I roll that into the new one, or keep them both, or what would be the options there?
It's a good question, and the answer is you need to have a look at it, and you need to have a very close look. And the reason is, often when people go and get their first job, or they get a job with a new employer, you're exactly right, you get a default employer super fund. So the super fund you're probably in might be a default account, and there might be benefits attached to that, whether it be fee discounts or default insurances that exist in that account. That when you leave that employer, those insurances either cease altogether, or you have a narrow window where you can select to keep those insurances going. That becomes really important if you're a little bit older or you have some health concerns, and getting those insurances again down the track might not be as easy as it was in the past. So it's a good idea to look at what's happening with the super funds you've got, and also what the new employer is offering, and decide which one's the best suit or best fit for you.
And how would I know how much insurance I need? So my existing fund might have some insurance in it, and I get a new fund that offers me new insurance. How much is the right amount of insurance?
Yep, it's a really good question, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I guess you sort of put yourself in the position that you want to, or have a look at the position you want to be in if certain things happen. So there's a few different types of insurances, and normally you want to say, okay, well, if I were to die or become disabled, or even if I couldn't work for 3, 6, 12 months, a couple of years, what would I want life to look like? And the way that we figure that out will normally change if you've just got a lump sum. So if we've got a big mortgage that we've just paid off with the redundancy, the numbers might look slightly different. So the insurances that you've just set up or had set up in your existing super account may no longer be suitable for you now that you've had that payout and changed jobs. So you need to look at that again and say, what's the best fit going forward?
Yeah, I guess the takeout is if I was getting a retrenchment package to get really good financial planning advice, I think that's the takeout there, isn't it? Because it's not just the redundancy payment, it's all the other factors that affect my life.
Absolutely, and like we sort of said at the beginning, it can be confusing, or it can be quite sort of anxiety provoking, and you won't know, or you might not know all the options or all the things that you might be able to do, and typically you only get one go at it. So it's a good idea to get advice and make sure that you pick the right option for you.
Yeah, and who should I call?
Hillross Macarthur.
There you have it, folks. So any redundancy question, Paul is your man, Hillross Macarthur. And remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Make it a good one. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.